So, the iPhone 17 Pro versus the iPhone Air. Which one do you go for? Which one makes the most sense? I sort of already know which one I'm going to be going for, which I'll share later on in the video. But these two phones are a lot closer than you think. I don't think a lot of people realize how close they are. Of course, there are some key differences, some key things that to keep in mind when you're choosing between the two devices. But Apple have clearly made both of these devices, even though they're supposed to be separate types of devices, they really are very close to each other. Now, of course, the biggest difference most people are going to see between these two devices, especially if you go to the Apple Store and you have a look at both, is the design and the thickness. So the 17 Pro is quite a thick phone. Apple have made it thicker this year, and I'm glad they have, to be honest, because it means a better battery, better thermals, all these different things help with the Pro version of the iPhone. And then the Air, which is just unbelievably thin. Now, this is one of the thinnest phones I've ever used. I have used some other thin phones, but Apple coming out with this is clearly a way for them to target a different type of person. Someone who wants as close as possible to the Pro phone, Pro functionality, but they don't want something as bulky as the Pro. The Air, for me, when I first got this, when I first unboxed it, watch my unboxing video if you haven't seen it, my first reaction, I was blown away. Like, these past few days that I've been using it, testing out and stuff, it has just blown me away how stunning this phone is. This phone is just amazing, absolutely amazing. Oh, by the way, if you guys are interested in these wallpapers, I'll leave a link to them down in the description below. But the thinness of this thing, the design of this thing, the way it feels in the hand, the size, the weight, it really is an incredible phone, absolutely incredible phone. I've just been so impressed by this thing. I feel like I can take loads of photos and videos of this thing, share it online and stuff, but it just doesn't do it justice. It's one of those devices where you really do have to hold it in your hand to see what it's all about. What also is very impressive about this phone is because it's made from titanium, so the iPhone 17 Pro is made from aluminium, because this is made from titanium and you have the glossy sort of titanium frame that goes around it, it feels more like a piece of jewelry. And I've said this before about Apple's devices, because they use glass and metal and other high-end materials, other premium feeling materials, it makes their phones feel like pieces of jewelry. I feel like this is one of the first iPhone Pro models that doesn't feel like a piece of jewelry. It feels more like a tool. It feels more utilitarian. That's not a bad thing though. I actually think that's a good thing because of the type of device it is. But if you're looking for that jewelry aspect and for your phone to feel premium, the Air is the one. They also do it in some incredible colors. I have the space black here. The gold looks amazing. The white, I think it's the white, looks amazing. The gold especially, I think, is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's such a good, nice color, such a premium looking color. I'd go as far to say that this is the best looking iPhone that Apple have ever made. And when I think of the best looking iPhones, I think of the iPhone 4, the iPhone 5, I think of the iPhone 8 as well, especially that jet black model they had. Those are the phones that I think of when I think of beautiful looking phones. Apple have really nailed the design here. This is an absolutely stunning phone. And the engineering as well is just insane, because I don't think a lot of people realize that all of this part here is pretty much battery. The brain of the phone, the camera, everything that runs the phone is up here. This is why it's thicker at the top, because they've put all of the brains of the iPhone in there. Yet it doesn't feel top heavy. The weight is still very nice in the hand. It doesn't feel like it's gonna fall either in any way. It just feels very nice in the hand. And another worry, which I completely get for lots of people, is how strong is it gonna be? Because it is a very, very thin phone. You don't want to be having it in your pocket, in a bag or whatever, and you don't want to be bending it by accident. Well, that's not something you're going to have to worry about, because there are a few videos out there showing the durability of this phone, and it is solid. Look, I am bending it right now. I'm trying to bend it, and it is just absolutely solid. Jerry rigged everything to the video trying to bend it, and he could not bend it with his bare hands. He could literally not bend it with his bare hands. He had to use, I think it was over 200 pounds of force to break the phone. So yeah, if you're worried about durability, this thing is actually built like a tank. Like, it really is built like an absolute tank. You should be able to put it through nearly anything. And I think most people who are buying the Air probably aren't going to be doing that anyway. But knowing that it is a very durable phone and Apple have thought about that, It's nice. It's a nice thing to know because obviously you don't want to be damaging such an expensive device. So like I said, the materials are different. Aluminium on the 17 Pro is an aluminium unibody design, and then you have titanium on the Air. The Pro also does have this sort of glass back here, mainly because obviously for MagSafe and other things like that. That's why you have the sort of two-tone design. Not everyone is a big fan of this. Not everyone likes this, especially with the orange phone. You can really see the contrast. I do think the Air looks cleaner. I think it looks more minimalist, it looks classier. I just think it looks more like a more premium device compared to the Pro. Both of these phones have the A19 chip, but there is a minor difference. The Pro has a 6-core GPU and the Air has a 5-core GPU. What the hell does that even mean? When I explain that to my friends who aren't into tech really, they have no idea. So really it just means that the Pro can do more GPU intensive stuff, but it's really not going to be that much of a difference. The main difference is, again, when it comes to the design. Because the Pro is thicker, it has a better cooling system. It has a vapor chamber. The vapor chamber helps with keeping the phone cool. This also means the chip inside can run heavier, can run faster, can use more power. The Air that's not the case. With the Air, there is no sort of cooling system like that. Everything is up here. It does mean that even though it has the same chip, depending on what you're doing, it probably isn't going to run as fast or as heavy as the Pro is going to. But that really comes down to what you're going to use it for. If you're someone who is photo editing a lot, video editing a lot, gaming, doing that sort of heavy stuff on your phone, go with the Pro. Ignore the Air, go with the Pro because you're just going to have a much better experience. But if you're someone who's a light user, someone who's just using their phone for basic stuff like Instagram, web calls, messages, stuff like that, the Air is more than enough. The Air is going to be more than enough. You don't need the extra power, the vapor chamber and stuff that the Pro has. So the cameras. The cameras are where I think the biggest difference apart from the design is. This is the main difference you're going to see externally, that is anyway. So you can see the Pro has 3 different cameras, the Air only has 1. Because the Pro has the 3 different cameras, technically you can get 0.5 times, 1 times, 2 times, 4 times and 8 times, all from these 3 cameras. The Air, you can only do 1 times and 2 times. The other big difference, which I don't think a lot of people realize and have mistaken, is that they think that the main camera on the Air is the same as the main camera on the Pro. That is not the case. The Air uses the same camera as the 17, the normal 17. And I think the sensor in that is actually from the 15. The sensor sizes are different. The Pro has a bigger sensor than the Air. Because of that, a bigger sensor generally, not always, but generally, means better image quality. Because when you have a bigger sensor, it can bring in more light and it can bring in more information, making the images just generally better quality. Of course, there's a lot more that goes into it. The lenses, the glass, the way the software handles the images, all that sort of stuff also matters. But physically, yeah, the Air does have a smaller sensor compared to the Pro. How much does that really matter? I think it really depends on what you're planning to use these devices for. If you're someone who's really heavily into photos, taking pro raw images, taking amazing quality videos, you're someone who really cares about the camera, the Pro is the one to go for sure. But if you're someone who's just taking pictures for fun, you like having a good camera, but you're not too fussed about having pro raw functionality out of the box and stuff, technically, actually, you can get Pro Raw out of this by using external apps like our Lynx camera app. But yeah, generally out of the main camera app, yeah, you can't shoot Pro Raw or anything. It's a bit more limiting compared to the Pro. However, that doesn't mean it has a bad camera. The camera is still really good. I actually think most people would not be able to tell the difference between the Pro and the Air camera when they're shooting in daylight. At nighttime it's going to be a little bit different because the Pro is better for nighttime photography. But if you're shooting in the daytime and stuff, I generally don't think most people are going to see too much of a difference side by side, especially when you're uploading pictures on places like Instagram, X and other sort of social networks. Where it really matters is if you want that super high quality, 48, I mean they're both 48 megapixels, but you want that Pro Raw processing and stuff, then the Pro is the one to go for. But generally, honestly, I really do think most people are actually going to be completely fine with the camera on the Air. If you're someone who likes to carry around an external camera, you have an external camera that you use for photography, definitely get the Air. I would highly recommend the Air over the Pro because you're probably not going to be using the Air to take all those high quality images. And because you're using your camera anyway, the battery life will be great because when you're shooting Pro Raw photography videos and stuff on the Pro phone, you are obviously consuming battery life. It's going to burn through the battery life a lot quicker. With the Air, if it's in your pocket and stuff and you're not using it, then obviously the battery is naturally going to last longer than the Pro. That leads us well into the battery life difference between these two devices. Naturally, the Pro phones are just better for battery life. They have better, bigger batteries. They're going to last longer. The Pro Max especially. If all you care about is battery life, getting the most battery life out of your phone, just go with the Pro Max. Like, that is the default option. Just go with that, because otherwise you're just going to be too worried about the battery life. But if you're someone who's a light user, you have access to power most of the time. Maybe you have a power bank with you most of the time. I really don't think you're going to see too much of a difference between the standard Pro and the Air. Of course, it also comes down to what you use your phones for. Like I said, if you're using it for heavy stuff, you're going to burn through the battery life a lot quicker on the Pro. Fellow YouTuber Tom the Tech Chap actually did a battery comparison where he compared the 16 Pro Max, the 17, the Air, the 17 Pro, and the 17 Pro Max. And the Air actually fared a lot better than you expect. He sort of tests a bunch of different things just to sort of have a baseline. But yeah, the Air performed much better than I even thought. It's not too far off the standard 17. It's not as good as the Pro or the Pro Max, but it's not like it's a massive difference. Between the Pro Max and the Air, there's around an hour and 15 minutes worth of difference of battery life. That isn't actually that big. That's not as much as you would think. Now, of course, that's also probably because the Pro and the Pro Max can use more power because they have better cooling, so they can use more power from the chip. The Air, not so much, because it has to throttle it down, which will, of course, use less power. So I really do think, unless you're a power user, think about what you're going to be using your phone for. How much do you use your phone throughout the day? Do you have access to power? Like myself, I'm usually working at a desk all day, or I have access to power in my car. I'm very rarely away from power for too long. And if I am away from power for long, maybe I'm on vacation and I'm sort of walking around. Like, for example, I'm going to Japan in 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to be doing a lot of walking. I will usually carry around a battery bank because I'll have a little bag or whatever, or I can just fit a battery bank in my pocket just to give me that extra bit of juice. So those are the things that I would think about. The Air does, oh, where is it actually? Let me get it. To help with the battery life, Apple have also released this MagSafe battery bank, which is specifically designed for the Air. Very Apple thing to do, but it also makes a lot of sense, I think. Fits perfectly, it looks really nice. It is actually the same battery size as what's in the Air. The only problem is it's not going to give you a full charge because you lose a lot of power just through thermal conductivity and all sort of other stuff. I don't know the technical information, but wireless charging just isn't that efficient. You're going to charge your phone a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently by plugging it in. So I would try and recommend plugging your phone in as much as possible and avoiding MagSafe and wireless charging if you want your battery to last years. If you're someone who's upgrading every year, probably not too much of an issue. So yeah, they do have this. I actually think it's pretty nice, but I use this Anker one that I've had for I think a couple of years now, 1.5 years or something like that, and it's much bigger. It's like 3 times the size of this, 10,000 milliamp hours. Of course, thicker, so you can see it is quite a bit thicker, but it does go in the back fine. And I use this, and this, oh my God, it's actually really strong. But yeah, I use this, and it usually lasts me a day, no problem. But like I said, I try and plug it in directly to power as much as I can, just because it's a lot more efficient. Pricing. So the Air is cheaper than the Pro. The Air starts at $1,000, the Pro is $1099, and the Pro Max is $1199. So around $200 difference going from the Air to the Pro Max, but $100 difference between these two, which isn't that much, I don't think. However, is it worth it for the features and functionality you're getting in the Air? I do think the Pro is better value because you're getting more features, more functionality, you're getting better cameras, just a better Pro phone. But what you're paying for here is the design. Like the design of this thing, the engineering, the thinness, the way it feels. That's what you're paying for with this phone. And I think it's worth it. I think for $1,000, this is actually very well priced. The camera, obviously not as good as the Pro, but still very good. You do have the same selfie camera, by the way. I completely forgot to mention that. You have the same selfie camera across the Pros and the Air. So that's not something you need to worry about, the upgraded selfie camera. Pricing for iPhones right now is pretty good. You're getting good value for money. Which phone will I personally be going for? I'll be going for the Pro. I really want to use the Air. Like the Air to me, it's just a fantastic device. The design, I'm sure you guys can tell, I'm not shutting up about the design because it's just so well put together. The only problem with this phone is the cameras. I'm actually happy to take a hit on the battery life and the performance. I'm not too fussed about that sort of stuff because, like I said, I always usually have access to power, and I'm not doing too many heavy things apart from photo editing. That's the main thing I'm doing in Lightroom. I would actually be completely happy with one camera. One camera is fine to me. The issue is the cameras between the 17 Pro and the Air. I want the same sensor that's in the 17 Pro in the Air. I wish Apple had done that. I wish they had put the same sensor in the Air because I would have easily switched, no questions. The telephoto lenses are nice, the wide angle lenses are nice, but I use the main camera the most because it has the biggest sensor, the best image quality. I try to stick to that as much as possible. That is really the only reason I'm sticking with the Pro. That's how close it is for me. And I think for a lot of people, it'll be that close as well. I don't think a lot of people realize that the Air probably is the better choice for them. It's crazy how close these phones are. Apple have just done a crazy job of putting a lot of the Pro stuff in the Air. And obviously they've had to make a few compromises because the phone is so thin, but it's wild to me that the whole phone is pretty much up here. So yeah, that is my choice. That is what I'll be going with. I will have reviews of both of these phones coming out soon, primarily using them as like a general user. So the issue I have with a lot of reviews, which is, there's nothing wrong with them because they are required, is that a lot of reviews are very technical. And I like technical data just as much as the next person, but that doesn't actually illustrate what using these phones are like. I want to use them just from a general user's perspective, taking pictures, taking videos, playing with editing apps here and there, playing some games, because most of my heavy work is done on my computer. So I don't need to do heavy stuff on my phone. And I think that's the case for most people. So yeah, watch out for those reviews. They will be coming soon. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and subscribe for more.